I've had a really rough last couple of weeks. It seems like almost every part of my life has had some type of explosion or complication, which has led me to stop what I was doing as much here, step away, and really reevaluate what my purpose is here. And honestly, this comment is really what brought me back to going, this is how I want to show up. Really often I get a lot of questions about specific situations. How do I show up for this? How do I show up for that? Which are all really critical. However, I only want to share principles. I don't want to share rules. I know there's a lot of parenting coaches and other type of people on this app who are going to give you very specific solutions to very specific problems, and I don't want to be that. I want to share principles that help you find that authentic portion of yourself. I want you to lean into those triggers, to be able to figure out what it is inside of you that gets dysregulated, to heal that, because then you show up better for your kids. Like asking questions about why are you getting upset? What lies are you believing that are telling you that you're failing in that moment and then you're reacting upset? Or what lies are you believing in that moment that are telling you that your children are just being completely disrespectful and it's never going to work out? Or maybe it's that everything feels out of control in that moment and there was a lot of your life that felt out of control and regulating this moment is too hard and it's bringing you to a place that's making you uncomfortable. Our wounds bleed onto somebody else if we don't heal them. Don't let the past that broke you allow you to break somebody else's future. Our triggers are the way our body says, we are dysregulated here, help us regulate. Not just in that moment, but to be able to get to the point that you can show up for yourself when you're triggered. That you can revisit the past versions of yourself that tell you that this situation is not safe. And quite honestly, triggers are very kind things that portions of you do for yourself. It's kind to say, when we're in this situation, we're usually not safe, get out. I know it feels like a global negative, but there really is a root of kindness behind it. A root of preservation, a root of saying, you shouldn't be here, this isn't for you. And the best thing you can do for that kind portion of yourself that's trying to protect you is to bring that portion to a counselor, a therapist, a friend, or whomever else to be able to unpack it so that those triggers dissipate. They may never go away, however, you can get the tools to make sure that the wounds that you have inside don't bleed on others. Interestingly, the last couple of days I was thinking about a situation where I did not show up for my older kids the way that I would show up for my littler kids because I was running from a trigger. I was running from something that I wanted to isolate myself from and I didn't want to be able to encounter or face. It was too hard and I didn't have the tools. And at one point, I finally just said, I really need to face this and I really need to press into this. And that was about the time that my 5th daughter was born. And I did. I dug in. I did the work. I prayed. I fasted. I journaled. I did everything that I possibly could to grow beyond that trigger. And I hate the fact that I cannot go back beyond that point and show up better for my older sons the way that I would for my littler ones because I was so uncomfortable with facing that trigger. While at the same time realizing that my younger children never have to know that triggered version of myself. And on the surface, it probably didn't seem terribly bad. It was just distraction. I wanted to distract myself. I wanted to distract myself from certain things. So I would consume TV shows, or I would read, or I would be listening to things. And rather than stop what I was doing and show up for them, I instead stayed in my lane and said, I'll be with you in a little bit, I'll be with you in a little bit, and just pushed things to the side. And a part of me was okay with it because I was justifying it. However, in reality, the idea of stopping and paying attention to whatever is happening in that moment, or understanding that I'm making a conscious decision to ignore someone in a moment, I needed to be able to face that so that my consciousness was aware. That it wasn't just an autopilot response. So on the surface, was it inherently bad? No. But did I show up the best version of myself? Also no. And I definitely needed to have a more radical attitude about it to make sure that I was able to show up well. And I hate that it took me until my 30s to be able to fix that. And now if I do it, it's a very conscious choice, so I can't feel guilty about it because I'm like, no, I did that. But it took me having to face that I was doing it in order to fix it. I had to change my principle. Because the behavior will follow the principle. My principle was, I am my priority. And I didn't want to face the inherent selfishness that encompasses. And for my entire life, I heard the excuse of, well, you're an only child. It's okay. You can be selfish. no, I can't. I shouldn't have that whole time. Because there's a huge difference between self-care and selfishness. And I had so many times that I was triggered because I was willing to stay rooted in that selfishness, instead of willing to confront the fact that I was being a selfish jerk. And now when I have that feeling come up, I will go, am I being selfish? And even if I remain in that behavior, at least I understand where it's coming from. And then I can modify accordingly. Not facing places where I have been triggered because I don't want to face the dark parts or the negative parts of my own personality allow me to remain with my principles out of order. And when my principles are out of order, not only am I not showing up for myself well, but I'm not showing up for my family well, my job well, anything else well. Because so many of our behaviors are symptoms of our principles. So I really want to step back and start sharing more on the principle side of things. I want to help give you the tools to be able to show up well for your family, and only you know what that looks like. I think about it like building a house. You want to make sure that you have a firm foundation. You want to make sure that you have 4 walls, that you have windows, that you have doors, that it's functional. But how you decorate your house and how I decorate my house are going to be vastly different because we live in it differently. The principle is that you need a bedroom, but the symptom is that you have a bed and you have all of the things in there in order to make sure that that is functional for you to sleep. The principle of a kitchen is that you have a place to be able to safely prepare food, but the function of that is going to look different based on your life. And from that, as you rearrange your bedroom or your kitchen or whatever other proverbial parts of you there are, then you'll be able to say, hey, I think that that trigger is because of this disordered principle. I want you to go on the fact-finding mission of you. I want you to dig into those parts of yourself. Because only by you digging in can you understand where these things are coming from, and then you can adjust your principles accordingly to make sure that you're showing up well for yourself and your family. And slowly, get your whole house in order.